First, I want to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. It has been well reported. I'm sure you've seen the news over the week, and I'm sure you've seen stat lines of LeBron James. There have been concerns about his efficiency on the court and the Lakers' subsequent performance in part as a result of that. And I believe the number is the Lakers have lost about 6 of their last 8 games. This week they did have a 34-point loss to the Miami Heat. That was kind of a strange loss. I think LeBron was happy in many ways because he filled up the stat sheet. He had 28 points, but obviously an embarrassing loss for the Lakers if they, presuming they legitimately consider themselves contenders. I have been on the side that I do not think the Lakers are contenders this season. I would be kind of surprised if they got past the first round and was a little bit hesitant, especially with the Bronny news and things like that, if this was just kind of a feel-good season as far as that goes. But we kind of understand that LeBron is 39, just about to turn 40 next month, and that realistically you probably can't have LeBron James at max money at this stage of his career and have enough less left on the rest of the roster to be a legitimate title contender. I think that is still the case. I still hold to that, but I also did give credit to JJ Redick and the job that he has done in centering this team around Anthony Davis, who is performing like a top 5 player in this league and deserves credit for much, I would say most of the Lakers' success this far, along with JJ Redick turning the focus to that direction. So I would ask Lakers fans to comment on this. How do you feel about where the Lakers are right now, how they're doing? Are you surprised by this? Because again, in my opening preamble there, you can kind of tell I'm not all that surprised, and maybe even if you had told me the Lakers are 12-9 to start out their opening quarter of the season, I would say, that's not too bad. That's actually, they've got a winning record there. They are well on their way to at least the play-in tournament. So not too bad. But I think the concerning thing, of course, is that it has been a drop into that status over those last 8 games, as I mentioned, losing 6 out of those. So, Lakers fans, how are we doing? I think the messaging coming from JJ Redick has been pretty solid. He has been preaching accountability and mentioning that he can't really do everything. He is not on the court, obviously, guiding this team. I think if you look at highlights and stat lines from LeBron, you can tell that, yes, he is a 39-year-old player, and as impressive as his career is, as impressive as he is physically for his age, there are just deficiencies, I would say, particularly on the defensive end, although shooting percentage hasn't been great either. As I just really think there are so many holes and gaps that he is creating in not being able to participate on defense, especially as the way that he used to, and maybe not having the same energy or the same stamina on that side of the court, that really does bring into question. I know he's getting 30 to 32 minutes per game. Is that even too many minutes for him at this point? I know to some that will sound crazy because you'll point to him averaging over 20 points per game, 22 points per game to be more specific. But keep in mind that, that's not the same as what 22 points per game used to look like in the NBA, for one thing. And what are the other options on this team that could maybe, by more frequent substitutions or maybe by framing LeBron's minutes at certain points in the game with the second unit? Not going to happen, by the way. I don't expect that to. He's too much of a legend to move into that role. But in terms of if the focus is winning or losing games and where your record is, I can see a lot of benefits there. A lot of times this season and last season, LeBron has been compared to who many would call the great one or the GOAT, Michael Jordan. Well, when you look at plus minus, this season, LeBron is minus 16 points per game. And when you look at 39-year-old Michael Jordan on the Wizards, a much worse team overall, by the way, he was still at a plus 2.9 points per game. So the other element of this too, since I throw Jordan in the mix in comparing these greats, is if this trend continues and efficiency stays down, is this really and should it be the last year LeBron James is playing in the league? I don't know. I think he has to be aware of his reputation taking a hit. I see two sides of this. I think LeBron wants to be somewhat like a Tom Brady. Like he can see that his longevity is such a huge part of his narrative as a player. And so if he could play until 45 and still have decent stat lines, he would consider that, I think, a big feather in his cap. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. But if his team is constantly struggling, and if he is one of the main reasons they are being held back from making a playoff spot, at what point, if you're the Lakers, do you say, it's time to move on or reduce your salary next time we sign you to a contract, which may be insulting enough that LeBron doesn't want to do it? Or, are we just playing this out for the end of the legacy? Does this happen? I don't know. Back in Cleveland, we'll talk about them later because they're having a great season, as you probably know. But I think there are a lot of interesting questions here. And I've said mixed things about LeBron. I don't think you can deny he's one of the greatest to ever do it. But I don't want to see any player kind of flame out. And it is a tough thing to end an NBA career. And most often it does not happen, the way it did for Michael Jordan. Even factoring in the Wizards, it was still pretty impressive to get those Wizards teams to the playoffs. But you look at a lot of careers down the line, I think this is even heightened by the fact that LeBron is considered by many to be one of the greatest to ever do it. And part of that, as you ascend into the great of greats in NBA history, your exit does matter a little bit more than your standard player exiting the league. Even at the Hall of Fame level, you can attain the Hall of Fame much easier than you can attain top 10, top 5 status in league history. So I would advise, if I were on LeBron James' team of business representatives, etc., that you want your exit to go on as high of a note as you possibly can. And I think an NBA title is out of reach and has been for a couple years now for LeBron James and this iteration of the Los Angeles Lakers. So we'll keep an eye on that and let me know your thoughts. Do you think this may potentially be the last year of LeBron James? Is this dip in efficiency and performance a fluke? We'll be curious, of course, to find out what is the case here.